up in this edition of Southern Newsweek, protesters succeed in stopping coal transportation from Dunedin's railway station. 17 teams take part in a softball tournament. Muscle and chrome are exhibited in Cromwell. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. Climate activists brought operations at the Dunedin railway station to a halt on Thursday. The protesters are claiming a partial victory after stopping all coal transportation for the day.
Wagons full of coal parked on a siding at Dunedin's rail yards this morning after protest action from Extinction Rebellion Otipoti. It's the second time this year activists have taken action against a shipment of coal going through Dunedin. 16-year-old Extinction Rebellion spokeswoman Yana Althea feels like today is mission accomplished.
We have, however, achieved the objective of locking ourselves onto the tracks. There are 2 people locked on, and we are effectively stopping the train from passing through Dunedin.
Around 15 activists from the organisation began a protest around 6:30 this morning, with about 7 people on the tracks and 2 of them physically clipped onto the tracks wearing face masks, which read, "Say no to coal." Protesters say they negotiated with Kiwi Rail so perishable items in containers could make the trip to Port Otago, as long as no coal trucks were attached. Yana Althea says the government needs to step in and not let a business it owns ship coal across the nation.
And it's unacceptable that a Kiwi Rail, owned by a government that has declared a climate emergency, is still using coal and is still transporting coal.
Kiwi Rail Dunedin Operations Manager Jamie McFarland says the protest has caused a massive disruption to its service, not only locally, but to the wider South Island network. The coal from Bathurst Resources' Takitimu mine in Southland was destined for Fonterra's Clandeboine milk factory in Canterbury. Police were called to the protest, but no arrests were made. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Dunedin hosted a South Island under-18 softball tournament this weekend. But unlike most championships which just feature elite teams, any team which is age eligible can take part.
17 teams from across the South Island are taking part in the Under-18 Softball Club Champs, being held on the playing fields near Dunedin's St Clair Beach. Only 1 team is from Dunedin, with a large contingent visiting from Christchurch.
I've played a couple of games against these Christchurch ones, last year especially, but yeah, it's great to have more competition, good to have a tournament down here, yeah.
Due to COVID-19 even affecting domestic travel, South Island softball organisers have moved the tournament away from being just limited to a few of New Zealand's elite teams. Instead, Otago softball operations manager Stacey Wardell says all club teams were welcome to take part.
We love the idea of, we've got this concept of anybody that's age eligible can play. We don't have selections, it's not trials and kids, well not so much this age, but young adults and under 15 age grade not missing out. Being able to, everybody gets to experience that tournament experience, and it's something that stays with them for the rest of their lives.
She says softball is a game just as appealing to girls as boys, and a sport where things happen quickly.
It's a fast-paced game, exciting game. Some other ball sports can be quite sort of long in between the crossovers and things, whereas softball, you can see 3 up, 3 down, going through 7 innings and things.
Some of these youngsters are already in the junior Black Sox training squad, having come up through the ranks from an early age, such as local player Josh Forrester.
I've been playing for a while. Brought up with around the softball family, so I just played t-ball when I was younger and just moved through the grades up into softball now.
The softball tournament is set to finish on Sunday afternoon. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A sea of glistening chrome and polished metal greeted visitors to the Cromwell Classic Car and Hot Rod Show. Among the vehicles on display was a Ford GT40 designed to compete against Ferrari in the 1960s.
A sea of glistening chrome and polished metal greeted visitors at the Cromwell Classic Car and Hot Rod Show. One of the more distinctive cars on display was built by Alan Dunn of Timaru.
It's a Ford GT40. and the 40s because the top of the car is 40 inches off the ground.
The cars were made to beat Ferrari at the Le Mans endurance race.
Ford was looking at buying the Ferrari team, and they fell out over bits and pieces of it. So Ford came out and said to his team, build me a car that'll beat the Ferraris at Le Mans. And they did that, and New Zealanders Denny Hulme and Bruce McLaren were part of the team that did the winning at Le Mans in Ford GT40s.
The race to topple the Ferrari racing team from the top spot was the subject of the film Ford versus Ferrari.
So there's some really good stories, and that's why the movie Ford versus Ferrari was such a popular movie here last year.
Mr. Dunn began collecting parts for his Ford GT many years ago.
I bought a kit, bits and pieces of the bodywork out of Australia years ago, and then when you get to 50 people buy a motorbike. I don't like motorbikes, so when I got to 50 I put all the bits and pieces together and built myself this car.
In Cromwell for the South Today.
One of the first international students allowed back since New Zealand closed its borders arrived in Dunedin. Not only is Hannah Mello happy to return to her research, she's also finally reunited with her beloved dog.
Finally reunited with her dog Quercus after leaving Aotearoa in March last year, PhD student Hannah Mello is ready to get back into her research. Mello is one of the first international postgrad students to return after the borders were shut.
I think my supervisor would say that's not surprising because I can be quite tenacious when I have a task.
Her pet was looked after by friends in the meantime.
One of the most stressful aspects of being away is being separated from him because I don't think I'm alone in the fact that my dog is family.
After enjoying the introverted lifestyle of the 2-week quarantine in Christchurch, Mello says something as simple as going to a cafe is wonderful.
It was my first cup of coffee in a cafe since March, and I just sat in the cafe amongst all these unmasked people and sort of smiled into my coffee.
Mello is going around New Zealand studying the microscopic marine animal Bryozoa. They form important habitats for other marine life.
Everything from Tarakihi in Tasman and Golden Bay to cod just off the peninsula. And we're really lucky here in Otago to have this really incredible habitat so close by.
Bryozoa are under threat from bottom trawling fishing vessels, and Mello hopes to help the recovery process by advising future marine reserves. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come up after the break on this edition of Southern Newsweek, the recent Gibbston Valley Winery Summer Concert is hailed as success as festivals on the North Island go on standby after the recent community transmission of COVID-19, and there's a trickle-down effect from the current lemon shortage. So catch this and more after the break. Welcome back. Work is continuing apace on a new 7-storey hotel in the heart of Invercargill. Built by the Invercargill Licensing Trust, the 80-room hotel will also include a rooftop bar with 360-degree views of the southern city.
ILT Chief Executive Chris Ramsey gives a tour of the Langlands Hotel development in Invercargill. The 80-room hotel is set to feature a rooftop bar 7 floors up, with doors that open to an outside area.
So on a beautiful day like this, be able to come up and have a chilled beer or a cold bubbles and then watch the aircraft land and see the amazing views right the way through to the tackies. There's actually 360-degree views, so the direction I'm facing, Bluff Hill, you'll be able to see, and east and west as well, so she's pretty spectacular.
The top floor was originally designated as a conference and event area, but the building's owners, the Invercargill Licensing Trust, decided a bar would be a more viable option.
A couple of months ago, once we had to start making some real detailed design decisions, we put it in front of the board that it would be great to be able to turn it into a bar, and they had go.
The new hotel is under construction on the corner of D and Don Streets in the heart of Invercargill, with the upper 3 floors designed to look like a lantern floating above the city.
It's going to be a pretty unique and different, spectacular place.
A typical day currently sees about 70 workers on site, with the number set to double once the building is closed in around April. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Despite an absence of overseas acts halving ticket sales, this year's Gibbston Valley Winery Summer Concert is being hailed as a success. Organisers say they were pleased to put on a show that attracted over 10,000 people when similar events across the world are being cancelled due to COVID-19.
New Zealand singer Jordan Luck performs the exponent song Why Does Love Do This To Me in front of a crowd of over 10,000 people at this year's Gibbston Valley Winery Summer Concert near Queenstown. With most of the acts distinctly New Zealand based, ticket sales were almost half compared to last year. But Greenstone Entertainment General Manager Dean Calvert is happy with the turnout.
Yeah, 10,000 people is not, in any other event that would be seen as a huge success. But we're used to that sort of 18,000, so it is a smaller turnout, but at least we're out here having fun, enjoying live music again with friends and family.
Some Australian acts had to be cancelled just 2 weeks before the concert due to an outbreak of COVID-19 across the Tasman. As a result, the other performers on the day included Gin Wigmore, Hello Sailor, Stella and Dragon.
It's great to see the people come out. We're the only place in the world that can do this. Other events have been cancelled in the last week around the world, but we're here and we're making it happen, so it's fantastic.
Calvert hopes the event, now in its 11th year, will help the Queenstown economy survive in the continued absence of overseas tourists.
We support the local region and community. We've got 240 suppliers that we pay and support, and everyone relies on this sort of thing. I mean, Queenstown more than anyone is probably going through tough times with a drop in tourism, so this is an important thing.
And police were out with a booze bus to make sure everyone got home safely after a day of music and dancing. Near Queenstown, the South Today.
The global pandemic is being blamed for a shortage of lemons across New Zealand. While many Kiwis have lemon trees in their backyard, American growers are feeling the squeeze due to COVID-19 restrictions during New Zealand's off-season. And there could be implications for the nation's gin drinkers. But a Dunedin publican says there's no need to panic yet.
Slicing into yellow gold. A global shortage of lemons, combined with the bitter fruit being out of season in New Zealand, means the citrus is hard to come by at the moment.
Shipping containers going around the world with COVID is a massive problem, and then even the containers that are making it over here, containers from California need to be fumigated to stop bugs and funguses and things getting in, and lemons don't handle that particularly well, so the shippers aren't wanting to be sending lemons over because a lot of them are going to be spoiling.
Dunedin Gin Bar Zanzibar is known for having a vast array of gins on offer, around 120 at last count, and owner Shane Simpson says if you think lemons are scarce and expensive, try looking for limes.
When the kiwi limes run out, we go from about $7 a kilo for limes up to, I've only just been able to get them back in stock again for $50 a kilo.
Much of New Zealand's latest lemon crop headed overseas in 2020 to Japan, Korea, China and the United States. The increase in the wholesale price of lemons and limes is putting a squeeze on the business's margins. But he says punters shouldn't expect to pay more for their beverage of choice.
We tend to be able to even that out across the year, so you're kind of averaging what your pricings are going to be at.
Simpson says many of the wide array of gins on offer are more suited to a different garnish. Some work well with berries, which are currently in season during New Zealand's summer, while one gin producer kicked off a vegetable trend in recent years.
First thing that comes to mind is with Hendrick's, you've got cucumber, which goes beautifully with its set of botanicals. The success of Hendrick's marketing, you're actually seeing people requesting cucumber in other gins as well.
But ultimately, he has a sense of pragmatism about the availability of lemons.
I think if life takes away lemons, use something else.
Among other factors affecting New Zealand's lemon supply is the dwindling number of orchards, as growers look to more profitable and reliable produce like kiwi fruit. In Dunedin, The South Today.
Still to come up after the break on this edition of Southern Newsweek. A rare tropical flower blooms at the Otago Museum, and blue penguins have a bumper breeding season in Oamaru. So see you after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Dunedin cricket player Nathan Smith got the chance to play in December for New Zealand A, just one level down from the national team, the Black Caps. However, an injury during his last game with New Zealand A put him out of action for the first few games played by his home team, the Otago Volts.
Otago cricket all-rounder Nathan Smith is back in action after suffering an abdominal strain on his last day playing for the New Zealand A team against Pakistan in December. Consequently, he's missed out on playing several games for his local team, the Otago Volts, but was cleared to start playing again from the beginning of last week.
Yeah, so I haven't had any pain for about 2 weeks now, so just been strengthening it up over the last couple of weeks, and yeah, it's just nice to be able to run in and feel no pain and be able to give it my all for the Volts, yeah.
The 22-year-old Dunedin-born player says he's been enjoying his time with the local team as both a batter and a medium-fast bowler.
It's a nice environment here. Obviously, within the Super Smash, we've got 4 games to go and we probably need to win all 4 of those, but the lads are in high spirits and we actually have that genuine belief, because obviously last year we had quite a bit of success in the Super Smash, so we just got to get rolling. Need a little bit of luck to go our way as well, but hopefully we can do that against Wellington this weekend.
With New Zealand's premier team, the Black Caps, ranked top in the world, that team won't be looking for many new players in the near future. But Smith is hoping to keep on playing with New Zealand A, which is at the next level down, to help develop his skills.
I'm not sure what's coming up on the horizon in terms of A stuff, but obviously, yeah, it's a goal. It's a good bridging gap for that next level as well, because you get quite a few international players playing that kind of cricket, so it's nice to test yourself against the next best, and yeah, hopefully I can get a call up next time as well if something happens.
The Volts lost against the Firebirds in Wellington on Sunday afternoon, significantly reducing their chances of achieving a good final rank in the domestic T20 Super Smash. In Dunedin, the South Today.
An unusual tropical herb is flowering in Otago Museum's tropical forest. The black bat flower, as it's known, can grow up to 70 centimetres in diameter and is attracting many curious visitors.
A plant by any other name would be just as hair-raising. Taka chantreri Andre, or the black bat flower, belongs to the yam family. It is also known as devil flower or cat's whiskers, and it's not hard to see why. Otago Museum Living Environment Officer Dr. Anthony Stumbo says it's enjoying the atmosphere at the tropical forest.
So like somewhat shaded, at least 60% shaded, very humid, warm, hopefully some airflow. They're self-pollinators for the most part, so they need that, even though flies can pollinate them sometimes.
The flower is up to 30 centimetres wide, black, somewhat bat-shaped, and has long whiskers that can grow up to 70 centimetres. It typically grows in Southeast Asian jungles. Dr. Stumbo says he frequently hears visitors to the forest saying wow, meaning they've spotted the bat flower, which only blooms for a short time.
The flowers actually progress along the fronds, and then you'll see seed pods in there. And so the flowers die relatively quickly, each individual one, but the pods will last for quite a while. It actually takes about 18 months for those to mature until they're ready to burst and spread.
Describing it as not a sweet-smelling flower, he says there are a few varieties of this plant with different coloured blooms.
And there are actually a few different varieties of this species. So this particular one is black, but there are white ones and golden ones as well.
He says it smells as you'd expect a bat flower to smell, but can be a little pungent as it starts to die. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Staff at Oamaru's Little Blue Penguin colony say the breeding season is one of the best ever. This is partly due to an unprecedented number of breeding pairs laying a second clutch of eggs this season.
There's been a record-breaking amount of new life at the Oamaru Blue Penguin colony this season. About 450 chicks have already fledged, and nearly 100 more are expected to leave their nests by the end of April. Part of this season's success is due to the penguins laying eggs about 6 weeks earlier than normal. This means 2/3 of the breeding pairs were able to go on and produce a second clutch, which is much higher than normal. Staff use microchip readers to keep track of the birds, and the colony's science and environmental manager says this year's success is food-related, with increased numbers of fish in the nearby ocean. Some of the birds are still waiting for eggs to hatch and will then raise the chicks for 8 weeks, with the chicks completing their molt about a month later. It's hoped the increase in numbers will have a follow-on effect, with an increase in breeding pairs in a few years' time. In Oamaru, the South Today.
For the last 10 years, teens near the end of high school have been coming to the University of Otago to take part in a science academy. The scientists behind the scheme are pleased to be passing on their knowledge to eager youngsters, some of whom might not have made it to the course without assistance.
Getting their hands on science in one of the genetic labs at the University of Otago.
Gene cloning is a technique where we take a bit of DNA and then we put it into another bit of DNA and put that into a bacteria, and then as the bacteria replicate, they replicate the copy of the DNA that's been inserted in the circular bit of DNA that's in the bacteria.
Mackay says this technique is widely used, including with producing insulin for people with diabetes. About 50 high school pupils are taking part in the 10th Annual Science Academy at the University of Otago.
Students are all from small schools, rural schools, lower decile schools, and a lab like this, they just don't have most of these schools. So to bring them in and give them a wide exposure to a whole range of different sciences and the career opportunities that are available for them, introduce them to some science communication skills, which of course are vital as we go into the 21st century here.
Science Academy Director Steve Broney says the Ministry of Education funded the program for the first few years before its withdrawal led to the university funding it for themselves. However, he says they'd welcome cornerstone funding to help them offer the program to rural pupils from around the country. Tessa Barnes from Motueka High School says she's learned a great deal over the first few days of the program and is enjoying the different opportunities she's seeing.
This is my 4th day doing science stuff in the labs, which has been really fun. We've got to try lots of different things that we don't really get at school. There's more facilities to try different things, which has been really cool, and work with like PhD students and people who are really highly qualified in the field.
She says after being on the Dunedin campus and taking part in the program, she's seriously thinking about studying at the University of Otago when she finishes high school. The Science Academy is different from some one-off outreach programs, as pupils who take part in this January camp often return for another session mid-year. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head to odt.co.nz. And thanks for joining us. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.